So today and yesterday, Reform UK have had their annual conference, and I'm not going to talk too much about what was in the actual conference itself, but I think it's worth talking about Reform UK as a whole, how they're doing, and why they are not the party to save Britain. Because ultimately, the main problem Britain's got is demographics, and Reform UK are not going to be able to solve the demographic problem facing Britain when it comes to the ethnic makeup of Britain. Now, when I was looking at the conference, one of the things that I noticed was that the vast majority of people in the audience were old, and you can contrast that with any of the other political parties. Reform UK is an outlier in that the average age of their membership is probably like at least 65 or something like that, because ultimately Reform UK are a boomer party. Boomers are the sort of people that would say, you know, we need a colourblind meritocracy. The left are the real racists. Winston Churchill was the best Prime Minister ever. Or maybe Margaret Thatcher was the best Prime Minister ever. You know, being British is about, you know, waving the British flag, and illegal immigration is bad, but if you come here legally and integrate, then you're just as British as anyone else. Those are the sort of opinions that boomers tend to have, and that is Reform UK policy. You know, I'm sure that a lot of Reform UK voters are a lot more right-wing than the policy of Reform, but when it comes to their members, and not just ordinary members, the members that are dedicated enough to attend the conference, they're just civic nationalist boomers, and that's the problem that Reform's got. Because, you know, they're trying to say that they're the radical outsider party that's going to change everything and fix the mess that Britain's in, when how can they do that when half their membership is going to be dead within the next 10 years anyway? You know, that's the problem with this civic nationalism boomer stuff that Reform UK puts out. Or it's like, another thing that Reform did was they have this like football team with like football shirts and stuff, and it's just fucking slop. Like, no one actually cares about that. You know, we want real policies about how we're gonna fix Britain. We don't want this just slop, and that's what they are. You know, Nigel Farage has been putting out AI generated videos of him dancing with black men. You know, that's not the sort of thing that young people would want to see, and I know it's not the sort of thing that young people would want to see, because if you look at the comments of the video that Nigel Farage put out, where he's like, it's an AI generated video where he's rapping with a bunch of AI generated black men, all of the comments were Gen Z and millennials, you know, just cringing at it, because it is cringe. Boomers might find it funny, but boomers are not the radical flank that are gonna save this country. You know, the radicals are gonna come from the youth, and the youth don't like Reform as much as they should. I mean, you know, if you look at the opinion polling, sure, Reform UK is getting around 20% youth support, which is very impressive, but if you compare that to, say, France, the, you know, radical, supposedly radical right-wing party there, the National Rally, they're most popular with young people. They're actually popular with young women as well, whereas Reform UK is doing terrible with the young women. And then in Germany, you know, you've got the AfD there. The AfD are also very popular with young people. And that's two similar countries where young people are much more inclined to vote for the party that is perceived to be on the radical right than Britain, because Reform UK, you know, obviously their policies would be a slight improvement over what we've got now, but it's just not exactly what this country needs. You know, you can't appeal to young people by talking about managed migration and talking about, you know, putting certain men in female prisons on a case-by-case basis. You know, young people want radical policies, because we cannot afford to buy a house. You know, young people are going to have to save up for years and years to be able to buy a house. And talking about slowing the rate at which new immigrants arrive is just avoiding the problem. Young people have got radical problems, and we need radical solutions, and Reform UK are not offering the radical solutions. The radical solutions are coming, or used to come, from a party like the Homeland Party, which is why 70% of the membership of the Homeland Party was under 30. Unfortunately, the Homeland Party's lost its way, so there isn't really another option for young people. One possible option is Advance UK, but they seem to be falling into the same civic nationalist boomer trap that Reform UK is falling into.